Welcome, one and all. We're learning Amud Yomi in Sukkah, Daf Gimel base 3b. We are approximately a third of the way down in the page. We're learning the English Baruch Basuf Yehuda. Says gemorah, Eruve Chatzeres, a menichim bay, aval shetuf menichim bay. So, my timer, the Lagor in this little house you've got, right? You can't put in it a Rubi Chatzeres. So we said, but you can put in Shituf Muvois. So again, we said there's two different things that we try and do with our one. Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Arav Hagoy.
All right.
Wow.
Good to be back.
With Sukkah Gimel on the base, we just started a second ago, 10 lines down. So a quick recap. You're not allowed to, on Shabbos, you're not supposed to, you're not allowed to carry from one property to another property. So if you've got a bunch of houses that share a chutz or front garden, so what do? You put a piece of bread, they all share, and each house puts a piece of bread in a basket, they put the basket in a house, and you're good. Then they're all ki'ilu partners in this joint chutzah. They all need the chutzah to get to their bread, to get to their house. The bread is where your house is. And therefore, you can all carry now into the chutzah, and from the chutzah to each other's houses, it's all good. And then there's a separate thing, which is, you've got a bunch of these chutzahs, a bunch of these front gardens attached to a cul-de-sac, this little alleyway, pathway road, and they want to be able to carry from one chutzah to the other chutzah, to go from from four houses here to the four houses on the other side of the road, through this mavoi. So what do? You've got to all become partners in the mavoi, right? So this house, you've got to put the bread in the house. So for Ruvei Chatzeros, in order that everyone has a partnership in the chutzah, the four houses that share this front garden, they've got to put in a house. And this little house that you have that's less than 4x4, that's not called a house. That's not good enough. That's not called you put in a house. But when it comes to joining the different front gardens of Chatzeros together, so that's fine to put it in this little hut that's less than 4x4. Why? Because you don't need to put it in a house. All you're doing there is trying to connect the front gardens. So the little hut's no worse than leaving it in the chutzah, and you can leave it in the chutzah, so therefore you can also leave it in this hut. You don't need a house for that purpose, and therefore you don't need to put bread in. It's fine, it's good enough that you just put fruit or vegetables, whatever it is, because it's just something you eat in the chutzah. It's not something you only eat in a house. So the Gemara says, "Ruve Chatzeros ein menichim boy, ava shituf menichim boy," meaning shituf mavois. When you're trying to connect together to this mavoi, you can't put it in there. Why? My timer, it's not worse than putting it in the chutzah. Putting it in this hut is no worse than putting it in the chutzah. The snan. We're on the last word on the line, about almost halfway down. The snan. Eruv Chatzeros b'chutzah. Where do you put eruv Chatzeros? You put that in the chutzah. Shetuvim mavois b'mavoi. And the gemorah asks, "Eruv Chatzeros b'chutzah." Do you really put when you do eruv chutzah? You put it in the chutzah? Is that true? You can't put the Eruv in all these things in your porch, in your Beishar, in your Achsadra, something that's, you got to put it in a house. That's not good. So, Elamai, you've got to put it in a house. And if you live in that little 4x4, Eina Isa means it's not also to carry. In other words, it's not a house. It's also you're in the chutzah. It's not called you're in a house. You can't go from shush to shush. You're like living in a small house that's 3x3. That's not called a house b'chal. It's not your shush taking out the different shush. The shetufei mevais b'chutzah sheb'mavai. And when you're trying to do a shutuf mevais, when you're trying to connect all the three different chatzeros in the neighborhood through this pathway, through this road, where'd you put that? Shutuf mevais b'chutzah. You could put that in a chutzah. You can put it in someone's front garden. You don't have to actually put it in a house. That's fine in the chutzah, because you're joining the chatzeros together. It's got nothing to do with the house. If you're joining the chatzeros together, the front gardens, you put it in the front garden. When you're trying to connect the houses, you've got to put it in the house. Okay. And putting in this hut, this 3x3, that's not worse than putting it in the front garden. So the Gemara says, back to the Gemara. This house is 3 by 3, as opposed to 4 by 4. This small house. You can't use it as an ibur ben shtei yaris. We said the ibur means like from the word pregnant, the woman's got a stomach popping out. So you're not allowed to leave your city. You're not allowed to carry outside your city. The whole city is like your rishos. It's like your house. You can carry the whole city. Even if your city is 1,000,000 miles long, you can carry the whole city. But you can't go more than 2,000 amas outside your city, right? That's called Tchum Shabbos, right? Now, if all the houses are together, one class, and you got one little house over here, so is that part of the city or not? You get a 2,000 amas from there, or do you have 2,000 amas from where all the houses are? So as long as it's within 140 amas, you're good. 140, we're going to get the details of 2/3. Okay. Now, let's say you've got a bunch of houses. You've got a house here and a house here, and just one little house by itself, right? As long as it's within 70 amas of the last house, approximately 30 meters, that's considered still part of the city. Once it's more than that, that's already not part of the city. And your 2,000 amas starts where all the houses are together. Okay, that's the... Now that house has to be 4 by 4. If you've got a little house there that's 3 by 3, that's not considered a house, right? No one lives in a house 3 by 3. 4 by 4, that's the minimum size of a house. So says the gemorah, it can't be a... That's it. So there's another principle. You've got a big city here and a big city here, and they're more than 140 amas away. Let's say whatever, there's more than 70 amas away, they're 100 amas away. If you've got a house in the middle, as long as it's within 70 amas of each house, then these two cities become one city. And now you can now these two cities become the main area, and you've got 2,000 amas in all directions from those two. So that it's considered an ibur. It connects the two together, right? So says a gemorah, if this house is less than 4 by 4, it can't connect the two cities. It's got to be a proper house. It's not even like a burgener. Burgener is, they used to make these little huts that people could watch the fields in. I guess to scare away the wild animals that used to come and eat all the crops, right? And that wasn't 4 by 4. That was less than 4 by 4. That was a little thing the guy could just sleep in at night. It was maybe two amas wide, I don't know, 4 amas long, and the guy just had to sleep in it, and right. But it's not even like that. Why? Says the gemorah. My time, and that would considered to be part of the city. A burgener is good, but a house is not a house. I think my time. Why isn't it at least as good as a burgener? As this, security hut. You see these guys have like nowadays. They put a little security hut outside the Rosh Memshala's house or some C's house. All the Supreme Court justices have like a little guy sitting outside in a 2x2, and that's a house. Why? Because says the gemorah, it works for its purpose. The purpose of it is that the security guard can sit there, and for that it's good. You can't live in it. It's not a regular house, but it's good for a security guard. This 3 by 3 is made to live in, but you can't live in a 3 by 3. So it's not. It doesn't meet the purposes. So in other words, it doesn't depend on the size of the house. What it depends on is, does this meet the requirements needed? The FDA approved rules that you need in order to have a house. You need to have a 4 by 4 as a house. For a security guard, the shed is 2 by 2, and that's fine for that. But you didn't meet the requirements needed for this house. Now we're going to get into a whole new din over here. A bit complicated. Strap in. And another din about a house is 3 by 3 as opposed to 4 by 4. Brothers, partners can't split it up. My timer delays bay daladamas. You can't split up this house if two people own a 3 by 3 house. We're going to see it's a massive machlekes what we're talking about here. If you have questions, hold on for a minute. Two people own a 3 by 3. You can't split it. My timer, why? Delays bay daladamas. You don't have four amas. If it would be 4 amas, the implication is, if it would be 4 foot, you can split it. But if it's 3 feet, you can't split it. My timer, delays bay daladamas. Oh, the implication is, if there is 4 amas, you can split it. The Gemara says, is that true? We have a mission that says, you can't force a split. We're talking about forcing someone to take half. In other words, if you both agree we want to split this 3 by 3 house, split it. We both own a lemon, you can split it. But if one guy says, I don't want to split this, half of a 3 by 3 is worthless. I'd rather have half of a 4 by 4. The Gemara says, the implication is, Bay Daladamas, if it is 4x4, Chalkin, you can force a split. But not in Chalkin is a Chotza, Arba Amis Lezeh, Arba Amis Lezeh. You can't force a split unless each guy ends up afterwards with 4x4. It's not enough that originally it was 4x4, because then each one gets only 2x2, and 2x2 is nothing. That's not a house. If originally it was big enough that after you split it, each one gets 4x4, then each one has a house, and you can force a split. So what is it? When can you force a split? 4x4 or 8x8 or 8x4? Right, is more accurate, right? This Mishnah says you can't force a split unless after the split each one has 4x4. So what is this really telling me? There's no din of a chalukah b'chotzer. The laws of chalukas chotzer don't apply. We're going to see in a minute what this means. Hold on, we're going to see in a minute what this means. Just a side note, it's interesting to know. Some ask, why doesn't it say you don't split it unless it's 8x4? Why are you saying unless each one gets 4x4 after? Just say, unless it's 8. We go do the math. What's half of 8 is 4. So the Ritter says, you know why? Because it's not enough if it's 8 beforehand. Because you might think, you split it, you build a wall, now each one has 3.5. That's not good. After you've added the wall between the two, and the gemorah in Bava Basra talks about how thick the wall has to be. It's called K'minhag HaMakom. Some places it's a 6 amos wall, some places a 6 tefachim wall, some places a 3 tefachim wall, some places the minhag is just to put a thin piece of wood, right? Some places they just put pegs in the ground. There's a split, but if you're going to split it, you got to split it based on how people normally split a house. So what if you've got a 6 tefachim wall? Now each one only got like a 3.5 tefach shetach. That's why it doesn't say 8, because you might think that doesn't matter what you have afterwards. No, we care what you have afterwards, right? Says Gemorah, what's this din chalukah? Now Gemorah says, what's happening over here? A house that's less than 4x4 doesn't have a din chalukah. What does that mean? So what it says the Gemorah, ain't by din chalukah. The Amar Funa, Chatza lefi psuchea mischalekes. For Rav Chisda Amar, we're going to see what that means. Rav Funa says, you split up the chatza based on how many doors it has. You give each door 4 amas, 4x4. The rest you split up evenly. So what's happening over here? Let's say you have got 4 houses. They all share a chutzner. You all share this front garden. Let's take the classic case. Some say we're talking about, it's a machlokes is what we're talking about. Are we talking about Yoshim? We're talking about partners. But let's say the classic cases, we're talking about the Pashas, we're talking about Yoshim. Father leaves 3 houses. He's got 3 sons. He leaves 3 houses. He says, the Bukhar gets a huge house over here. There's 1 big house and 2 small houses. Now, when he was the boss, when he was a landlord, they all shared the front garden. The father in the will says, Reuven, the Bukhar gets the big house, and the other 2 sons, each one gets a small house. He doesn't specify how you split the chutzner. How do you cut up the front garden? So it's a machlokes. Rufuna says Rufuna, I'll tell you how you split up the front garden. It doesn't matter how big your house is, it matters how many doors you have. So if one son, let's say, gets 2 small houses, let's say a different case. One son gets 2 small houses, one son gets a big house. So how do you split the chutzner? The guy with the 2 small houses, he gets half the chutzner. Or he gets 2/3 of the chutzner rather. The guy with the 1 big house, he gets 1/3. In other words, it goes with how many doors you have. Each person has to have the chutzner splits. You got like drawing of you got front chutzner, 1 big house, 2 small houses, and let's say they each spread out evenly. So the 2 guys, one guy gets 2 small houses, he gets 2/3 of the front garden. The guy with the big house, you look at the doors. You don't look at how big the house is. He's got 1 big house. He gets only 1/3 of the chutzner. That's Rav Huna's pshat. Says Rav Chisda, no. Each house gets in front of the front door 4x4. You've got a loading bay outside your front door. You could put your strollers. You come outside your house, you want to take off your shoes, put your umbrella down. So outside your front door, you've got like a little arba to unload your shopping, to put down your stuff, put your coat rack there, whatever it is. The rest of the chutzner, you split evenly. In other words, of course, each house, each door, if one guy gets 10 little huts, he needs to have access and place to put down your coat outside each house. So each house, he gets a little thing outside his house, you know, a front yard, right? But 4x4. Just so you could put down his stuff, the unloading bay for shopping, your delivery guy can stand there. But the rest of the chutzner, you got this huge front garden, that you split evenly. Now, obviously the father wanted to give each guy with his house a loading bay. A house without a loading bay is nothing. So it's part of the integral part of the house. So the rest is split evenly. Now, there's another opinion over here. What are we talking about? We're talking about partners. We're talking about, this machlek is talking about shutfim. So what happens? Shutfim say we want to split up, right? Well, let's say shutfim already split the house. They shutfim own these 4 properties. Let's say one big house and 2 small ones to make it easy. They own these 4 properties. They split the house. They write a contract. We're going to split the house. They come to Beis Din and he says, well, we didn't discuss how we split the chutzner. He says, obviously it's going to be each one gets a third of the chutzner. The other says, no, I've got 2 doors. I need more access. I've got 2 small houses. I need more access in the chutzner. So that's the machlekes over here. Does each one get chutzner based on how much house area they have? Or does each one get in front of his house, like a little shetach? Some say the machlekes is where they did a split, but we forgot how they split it. So what's mistaba? Like how should we split up this front garden? Others say we're talking about a case where they weren't Yerushit, but they were Zeich from Hefka. They went out to the Midwest, wherever they went, I don't know, each one built a house, right? And then they made a wall around the whole little block, right? To keep out the wild animals. And then they decided at some stage, we want to split up this front garden. How do we split it up? Does each one get based on how many doors he has in his house? Or do we just go evenly? Each house gets, boom, 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 a third of the area. The Richter says it doesn't make sense that we're talking here about shutfim that split up. We can't be talking about shutfim because if it's talking about father giving Yerusha, it's totally in his das where he thinks everyone should get. But let's say you're a partner, right? And you do a split, and one guy gets the big house, one guy gets the 2. So obviously, when you do a split, everyone gets an area. He has to have access to his front door, right, from the road. He's got to have a path from the road. That's obviously the das where you do a split. But it can't be pshat that it doesn't make sense. Why should the guy get now more because he took more little houses as opposed to a big house? Why does he have now more of a right to own more of this chutzner? It doesn't make any sense. Just because you got 3 little houses, now you own more chutzner? That wasn't. If it's part of the deal, it's part of the deal. But we're talking about where it wasn't part of the deal. We don't know what the deal was, or we're going to do a deal now. It makes no sense in Rafun to say that the partner spinning, boom, you get more chutzner space. Why? Chutzner costs a lot of money. Why should you get more chutzner just because you gave him more house? It makes no sense according to Rafun. I understand each one gets in front of his house a little loading bay. But why should you get now 2/3 of the chutzner? Okay, says the gemorah. Says the gemorah, the honey mili bias. Honey mili bias to mehevekai yavin lechatzer. So I understand that a house to mehevekai yavin lechatzer. Since the house is supposed to remain there, he needs a chutzner. A house that you're going to knock down, you don't need to give it a chutzner. So there's enough gemorah between whether the house is permanent or a house is temporary, right? Okay. If If the house is above 20 feet, ubola maito. Now you're coming to reduce this house. We said in the Mishnah that any sukkah above 20 feet is parcel. So what do you want to do? You lay down carpet. You make it, you put a couple of layers of padding, and now it's no longer 20 amas. That doesn't work. You can't go ahead and reduce the area after you've put the schach up. Why? Even though now you went ahead and you muvatal the sukkah, says Rashi, what does it mean? Even though in your head you said, I'm going to leave these pillows on the floor now for 7 days. It doesn't help. Why? Bittel doesn't work because of a principle called bittel, right? You might think that this works. You made it less than 20. Says the gemorah, it doesn't help. Why? Because bittel, the bottle daite, it's a koladam. Meaning what? It says Rashi, aim bittul bittel. That is not good bittel. I guess what it means, it doesn't specify what's bottle daite. In other words, just because you put your pillows down and you said, I'm keeping that for 7 days, but most people, when they put pillows on the floor, they don't keep it there for 7 days. They don't want it to get ruined. They don't want it to get trashed. If it rains, they're going to pick it up. So you might say, listen, I'm keeping it there for 7 days. I want a kosher sukkah. Whatever happens, I'm not taking it off. We say it doesn't matter what you think. Most people in this scenario, when they put the stuff down, they're not keeping it on the floor. It's interesting because the gemorah, some Rishonim want to prove from here. If you back up and say, you remember there's a machlokes, why can't it be 20 feet high? Why anything above 20 feet is possible? So one of the opinions Rava said is because above 20 feet, that's really a deal. It's kva. You build a 30-foot building structure that's permanent. And permanent structures, the sukkah, the Torah wants is temporary. So the Rishonim ask, so how does adding pillows to the floor make this permanent structure into temporary structure? The walls are still, you're standing outside, you look at this thing, it's still 30 feet high. I don't care how many layers of pillows you lay up inside. So someone to prove from here that we don't pass it like Rava. Otherwise it makes no sense. Why would adding pillows make this no longer a permanent structure? Some say no, once you mevatel it, this is already a architectural, svara. Once you mevatel in your das, these pillows, this is like, we look at it like this is the floor. And since there's a gzeres hakaz of 20 feet, it can't be kva. You got to look where the floor is. In other words, you could build a wall out of metal. There's no problem with that, the gemorah said. The problem is it can't be 20 feet. Once you mevatel it, that's it. It's not 20 feet anymore. But why do you look at it from the inside, not the outside? Maybe he's also putting kiraim outside also. I don't know. Maybe you should look at it from the outside. Who says that 20 feet? Look, it's a kasha. It's a bit of a deal that we don't passing like Rava from this kasha. There's something to think about. It says the gemorah, Teven ubitlai, heavy meat. Let's say you didn't put pillows down, but you put down straw. Hay. What's teven? Hay, straw. I don't know. What's the difference between hay and straw? I don't know. Teven ubitlai, heavy meat. If you put down hay, that's good. That's called yumaita. That's now less than 20 amas. It was 20 amas high. It was 21 feet high, and you put a foot of hay. That's good. Why? Because you're not going to take out the hay. You're going to take out the straw. There's no bottled daite. It's a kolodom. If it rains, you're going to keep it there. You're not touching it for 7 days. It's fine. We believe you. The kosh came off. All the more so if you pour in there your dirt, right, and you raise the floor a foot. That's great. Kosh came off a bit like. Teven ve'enos lifnaisai v'afasta machlekes. What if you put teven down, but you weren't mevatel it, but just you're not going to take it away. Take a look in Rashi. Teven ve'enos lifnaisai. Second line in Rashi. Teven ve'enos lifnaisai means loy itztach lifnaisai kolim echag umiyu loy bitlei mamish b'peh. So it means that he's got no use for this for the rest of the chag. He doesn't need the straw, the hay, to feed his livestock. But he didn't do bittul b'peh. He put it down there. He doesn't need it. But he didn't say, I am a vatel, arein mevatel as teven zu. He didn't say those magic words, right? But he's got no plans. There's no plans to use this in the next 7 days. V'ofa stam, or you put stam dirt down. Machlekes Rabbi Yosi v'Rabbanan. We've come to a machlekes between Rabbi Yosi and Rabbanan. Disnan. It says in the Mishnah, Bayis shmeleu teven. It's roirois a bit like mivutol. You take a house, you fill it with teven, with hay, it's roirois, the stones, a bit like, and with your mouth you say, how is it bottle? Mivutol, it's bottle. Bitlayin, like bitlayin, only if you mevatel a peh. Bitlayin, if you mevatel it, yes. If you said bepeh male, this teven is bottle in, yes, it works. Like bitlay, if you didn't say bepeh, you didn't verbally enunciate the fact that it's bottle, loy. Says the gemorah. V'tanyala, it says over there, Rabbi Yosi Eimer, says Rabbi Yosi teven ve'nosel ifnaisai, with straw, as long as you don't have intention to remove it. Haru kaf stam. That's like stam afar or bottle, and it's good. As long as you don't have any intention to remove it, it's like you did it before. Off of us, if naisai, dirt, but you have intention to remove the dirt, you need to use this dirt in the next few days for another project you have. Haru stam teven. That's like stam teven, v'loiblik. So it's a machlekes about offer stam and teven. Offer osilif naisai and teven stam. Ve'ein osilif naisai. So says the gemorah. You've got the sukkah that's above 20 feet tall. You got hutzin yada b'teiv chaf. You got these. You got this long palm leaves, and the poke, the end of the leaves, they're drooping into the sukkah, right? So the sukkah is very, very tall, way above 20 feet, 20 and a half foot. It should be possible, but the leaves are dangling inside the sukkah, inside the 20. So is that considered kosher or not? Do you have kosher schach or not? Says the gemorah, in tzilson meruba mechamsim kshera. If these leaves that are hanging below 20 have enough schach, if you've got enough surface area to give you enough cell to make a kosher sukkah, then it's kosher. I don't care if you also have above 20. As long as the part that's hanging below 20 covers enough of the sun, it's kosher.
Why don't we look at the if the leaves are coming down, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at, this is below 20, so then, right, that's what makes it kosher.
Yeah.
Why are we not looking at everything above this, saying, there's something above the schach?
Why isn't it schach mitachal schach?
Yeah. Meaning the where you place the schach down, where you place the schach over here, that upper part, there's now something above the kosher schach.
You're saying the schach is being covered by posel schach?
Yeah.
Very good kasha. Maybe we'll see tomorrow. It's a very long. We're very late. But yeah, l'chayr, it's. Why don't you assume that? Why? There's a few kashas over here. First of all, the schach just dangling in the air, like what's holding it up? It's posel schach. It's part of the posel schach. You go to the right. There's a bunch of kashas over here, but let's start with the great kasha. The main principle is as long as the schach below 20 gives you enough cell, it's good. Okay, hold that thought. We're gonna hopefully address that. Says the gemorah. What about the other way around? What about the other way around? Haisa, what about Haisa Gavaya Tvachim? The sukkah is right above 10 Tvachim tall, right? And we said the sukkah has to be at least 10. But now you've got these pokes of the dangling leaves going below 10. So is it kosher or not? So Sava Abaye Lemema, Abaye wanted to say, just like above 20, you look at where the leaves are hanging. So below, when it's just above 10, it should be the same thing. As long as the stuff below 10 is roiv chama, it's not kosher schach, then it's kosher. In other words, when would it be possible if the hutzin is going below the 10? That's if it's kosher schach. You've got roiv, you've got a good cell over there, then you've got a kosher sukkah below 10. That would be possible, but as long as the kosher sukkah is above 10, you've just got some rare bits dangling below 10, so it should be kosher. In other words, he's saying the same thing. Just like we look at whether it's chamsa mubitzil. So here you look if it's sisel mubitzil chamsa, the other way around. That doesn't make sense. So dirus ruchi, what's the problem with living in a sukkah below 10? The sukkah below 10 is a dir srucha. It's uninhabitable. So who cares if it's chamsa b'mitzilza, if there's more shadow, more sun? It's uninhabitable. It's got nothing to do with how much shadow this stuff's giving. And people don't live in a dir srucha, and therefore it's possible. So before we go further, we'll have to end over here actually. It's a machlekes. Is this dir srucha the rice or the rabbanan? Is it the rice or is it the rabbanan? There's diukim in the Rambam like this and like this. But it's an interesting kasha. Is it the rice or the rabbanan over here? Okay, we're going to have to end over here. But as Hashem, tomorrow we will address your kasha and see further. Have a wonderful day.
Good. Great.
Hashem, good to be back.
So good.